That's enough of that. That's enough of that. We've all heard good music. We don't need to hear any more. You can just go over to
All
Robert
you
John
get.
Collins's website and listen to it all for free. After you've
Enjoy.
after you've paid him, obviously, then it would be free afterwards. Yeah, is what I'm saying. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Deductionist podcast, ladies and gentlemen. A good
Hello,
afternoon to
people.
Board, who is super excited for Pipes 2.
Woo!
For those of you that don't know, the reason I've been very quiet on posting on the Deductionist channel is because I've been hard at work building omniscient insights from the ground up, like learning how to do the websites and
Mothering
copywriting
is
and all of this kind of stuff.
feeding us.
And
No.
yeah, I've made a follow on to Pipes, Problems, and Reading People called Pipes 2.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought I'd take a very kind of movie title approach to it and not beat around the bush so people know exactly what they're getting into. And
I mean,
yeah,
we called it Pipes enough.
we did. We did.
It
And
caught on. It caught on.
yeah, and like with Pipes, Problems, and Reading People, it was born out of like I had this idea for a really kind of douchey way it was originally in my head was a professional inductive process, but it stayed as PIP in that way. PIP became Pipes, Pipe became Pipes, Pipes became Pipes, Problems, and Reading People, and
Oh
then it
my
just went
God!
back
Say
to
that. Say that as fast as you can.
that's
Ten
no, I
times
can't.
over.
I can't do it. I can barely say my own name
That's
every now
fine.
and again. At that particular stage. So, how are you doing, sir? I realise we've done all this, but it's kind of a positive
Very well.
thing that we do it in front of other people as well, which is not something you say out of the permissions of your bedroom too. Um,
I'm very well, thank you, mate. I'm very well. How is
good, good,
yourself?
good, good.
I
I'm
know.
rather
I know
tired.
you've been very busy
Yeah.
doing a lot of things.
Well, like I am so not a video editor. I'm so not. Like it's what
You're good. You're good, man. You're good.
look, I appreciate the delusion. I mean the compliment. In that way, but like it's like when people talk about singing. You know, I always like to say I can't sing, but I will sing. You know, so people know what they're getting into, and it was like so with this. I'm not a video editor. I know how to edit a
Yeah.
video. If
I'm like that. I'm like that with food. I don't need any more food, but I will eat more anyway.
I
I know
don't need any,
exactly where you're coming
but it's
from, mate. I know
already in
exactly
my
where you're
mouth.
coming from.
So yeah, by the end of today, and starting this countdown at yesterday, I will have made 60 shorts from scratch. I
Nice.
realise there are AI services that can do a lot of that for you. I don't have. I live in England. I'm not flush enough to buy that kind of thing. Who can buy that? Like I was talking to Jim Wenzel, um, who was is one of the colleagues at the Integris solution, which is my security startup, and
Yeah.
he was talking about the paid version of a project management system called Slack. I don't know if you know it, but it's a system called Slack. That's
Okay.
where all the if you've got an online business with employees scattered around the world, it's the
Hmm.
easiest way for everyone to kind of get together and stay on point with everything that you've been working on. And he was talking about
Right.
using a paid version of Slack because messages delete after 90 days. You can't go back to them. I was like,
Okay.
mate, when it's less of a challenge to eat food, then I will look into upgrading my apps my app service in that particular way. Until that time, I'm not going to do it. 90 days is fine. That's more than enough time in, in,
Yeah.
in that
Well,
in that
that's the whole
situation.
point of what you do. Tell him you're insulted. Tell him you're insulted, sir.
Just ask me for the message. I'll find it. Date, time,
Yeah.
whatever. It'll be in here. It'll be in there somewhere. I mean, it's one of those where I'm
You are the
laughing, but it's
upgraded
probably
Slack.
true. That sounds like a kind of an oxymoron, an upgraded Slack. In
That's what I
that
call him.
way. Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Like if your dick answered back. Yes. What? Um,
Oh, you're going to get a downgraded slap.
that reminds me of the In-Betweeners. Anyway, so have you heard what's going on in the world?
Yeah, you've just informed me that I need to say
Yeah,
goodbye to my loved ones, and say, take Rosette out to the field where I'll propose to her before I jaunt off into the sunset,
that's it.
followed by cannon fire and me ducking in some sort of trench and writing poetry. Let's start with peace, brother.
Peace, brother. So, nobody will get that. It's a private joke. Don't worry about it. But so for those of you that don't know, the long and short of it is, the head of the British Army has spoken about the possibility for bringing conscription in. Now, in terms of everybody kind of going, we're all going to die, and not really listening to what he was saying, it is a consideration in terms of its impending happening. Not no. No, no, not at the
Yeah.
minute. But this is what led to the idea for today's episode in terms of the benefits of spotting logical fallacies in this particular way. But it kind of got me thinking, right?
Mm.
The kind of basics of his point was that because our army is so small compared to Russia's, that if it all kicks off, we're fucked. Right?
I mean,
Because
we pretty much are.
yeah,
We are
they've
tiny in comparison.
they've got just shy of 2 million, and the last count was we're hitting about 75,000.
Yeah.
Which those numbers
We're a couple
aren't
pennies
good,
short.
right? They're not
No,
good. In
no,
but then
not great.
you start to explore the logic of this scenario, and I'm trying to explore this on information I don't have. Right, so I'm just exploring it as concepts in that way.
Yeah.
These people that work in the military, in the army, and in politics will know so much more than I or you, because they keep it to themselves and they lie to the rest
Yeah.
of us. Which sounds like a tinfoil hat kind of statement to make, but it's bloody true, isn't it? Let's
Well, I
be
suppose
fair.
we have no choice but to look at it from the Joe Public angle, because that's all we are at this point. That's the most
Precisely,
fairest way of describing our position.
muy preciso. Anyway,
Which
so
call me?
I sneezed. Sorry.
Ah.
I said very precisely. So the whole kind of thing got me thinking, right? If we're talking about conscription, is it conscription a la World War II when it was 18 to 41-year-old males and males only? Or if we're living in this truly kind of diverse and equal scenario, is it just 18 to 41-year-olds everywhere? Right,
Yeah,
everywhere in this
yeah,
way. Where does that lie? And if it is, like, take one of our friends who is army's in his blood. The military's in his
yeah,
blood, generationally speaking, and he's tried a couple of times to get in, and both of his times have been rebuked,
mm.
rebuffed in that way. Are they really going to want you know, guys like you and me who'd be like, so this is a gun, cool, what do I do with it?
I pulled the pin out of the grenade. What do I do with the pin?
Throw! No, not straight up in the air,
I threw the pin.
right? You want to say, if this is the case, Mr. Head of the Army guy, who's apparently one of the greatest strategic minds that we have at the minute, maybe you've not thought this all the way through.
No.
And when Captain Cage Fighter from Russia, who's been training with bears since he was 2, is going to get to the mainland and see all of us going, no, you can't come in. I've not had me Greggs and me morning coffee yet.
You know those adverts you see of is it the Royal Navy of it's usually just the enemy camp in
Yeah.
darkness, and it'll be like panning across this camp, and then you'll see a dark bush and a pair of eyes will suddenly open up as it shows our men moving through, painted up in the darkness, and then it'll say, join the army, have you got what it takes, that kind of thing. But with us, that would just be, someone's sat nav going off, make a right.
Yeah, all the
And then the
eyes and
tree
the paint
stump.
and whatnot, and then somebody
Yeah.
put a vape pipe in their mouth. just a big plume of smoke coming out. Oh, I can smell strawberry bubblegum. The enemy is that way.
You just hear some young lads shout, "Give me a oh yeah!"
They're coming. That's what she said.
Boom!
We win the war, yay! But like,
fire! I'm not firing. I clock off at 3:30.
Like I know if they pull conscription from back from the kind of qualities from back then, which they very likely won't, right? But if they do, there is no option to refuse. If you refuse, you go to jail, right?
Sounds safer.
Exactly. So, like I've said before, talking about all of these I forget which generation Y or Q or whatever the fuck they are now. I don't know, but they're the younglings. You know, the kind of 17, 18-year-olds who have spoken about this before, going, "Why would just say no?" And like, honey, you can't say no. You can't say no. But like, I would like to, like, if they offered me the choice, you know, like cake or death, I would choose cake in that scenario, in the sense they go to war or go to jail. Lock me up, mate. I'm off to jail.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to go over there just to die for you guys, because if I go over there, that is what's going to happen.
Yeah, and if they attack and win, then, you know, what am I? I'm their mate if they find me in jail here.
Exactly.
He's an arsehole too. Let's keep him.
Exactly. Yeah, that's fine. Where are we going to go to find all the people that will very quickly defect? Prison. Amazing.
I'm the enemy's backup army.
So anyway, it just kind of got me thinking about the whole mess, in that it is, at the minute, the masses, of which I am a part of. Is that the proper English? The masses of which I am a part. The mass. I am a part of the masses of which I am speaking about in that way. I kind of got, see what I mean. I'm fucking tired. Right. There seems to be a kind of, when this whole political conversation or war conversation or whatever it is, nobody stops to listen. In that way, the critical thinking goes out the bloody window. And there was when I saw about this conscription element online yesterday, I got lost in a rabbit hole of just watching video after video of talking about this, and then it came to Prime Minister question time, and it was, so you've got everyone on this side and the Tories on this side, right? So Prime Minister's getting asked these questions. Someone will hurl insults, sure, and then ask a question. He will not answer the question. Someone will say something, hurl insults, and ask another question. He says something else that isn't even related to the question. I'm like,
I have 3 sugars in my tea.
Like,
yes, but how are we tackling the war in Ukraine, sir?
Yeah, rather than keep going back and forth on different questions, if somebody was just switched on enough to say, "Well, you didn't answer my question."
Yeah.
You know, and then ask him the question again. Then he says something else. Okay, that's lovely. You didn't answer my question.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't answer my question. You know, so to kind of open this critical thinking element out when it comes to observations is a very Sherlockian connection, but it's just got parallels to the particulars of the moment. Like, when you see some of the stories, I'm not going to cite them all at the minute, because that's 60 of them, and we ain't gonna have time for that. But there was some parts of, ain't nobody got time for that. Insert that reel in here, and that lovely little soundbite. But yeah, so there's moments towards the end, after, you know, the criminal or the wrongdoer has been caught, and there is the appeal to emotion, right? And essentially what's happening with the appeal to emotion, it's designed to tug at your heartstrings, and emotional qualities being antagonistic to clear reasoning, as Sherlock would say. It is one of those things where it is designed to make people overlook facts or evidence, or, you know, the receipts that people bring to these kinds of scenarios, right? Um, you think of ads for charity,
Yeah.
right? Every advert for charity comes on. They don't just go, "Can we have some of your money so we can go over and buy these folks dinner because they haven't got enough to eat?"
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that
Yeah.
way. And like at the end of these kind of stories, yeah, you gotta let me go. I was just trying to get revenge, or I was just trying to steal back what was stolen from me, and these types of indignant responses are
Yeah.
an appeal to emotion. So in order to protect yourself from something like that, and protect is a bit of a loaded word, because I don't mean that this appeal to emotion is going to have you killed at the end of the day. It's not. It's a logical flaw. But in order to protect yourself from being um, manipulated by it, influenced by it in
Mm.
that way, right? You would be wise to first of all know that it exists, right? To simply acknowledge it is to give it more of a place in your scope of focus, your scope of reasoning in that way. So if I was to say to you things like, if I'd wronged you in some way, I don't know, I drank your last Guinness, or I don't know, whatever it is, some
A
scenario.
duel. A duel we will have now.
I'm imagining Robin Hood Men in Tights. Oh God. Um, but like for me to say something like, dude, how long have we been friends? We've had so many adventures together. We've had loads of fun and this type of thing. And then draw that back to the situation of your current feelings with regard to your Guinness. I'm blatantly appealing to your emotions in that particular situation. So if you are at least aware that that kind of ploy exists, you can better
Remember that
go.
time that you gave me a kidney? I drank your Guinness, and it was really good of you.
Yeah.
What?
Do you remember that time I got you off that murder charge? Oh, no! Those
Who will Steve?
Teletubbies were stalking me for years. Um,
In
but
my mind.
this is the thing when it comes to anything that can influence the Pascal. What kind of adventure? Well, one of the adventures. Let me put
Would you like to know?
let me put the comment on the screen. Um, so one of the adventures that we went on was down to an army base in Devon for a
Oh
gig,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we're driving. And it's from where we are. It was like, what was it, like a 5 hour drive, 6 hour drive,
Something
something
like
like
that,
that.
wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was
It's
a
a pretty
long
long one.
drive.
Rush hour
Yeah.
time as well,
Oh God,
through
it
the
was.
middle of Birmingham.
Yeah, like it led to a kind of phrase. It was a phrase, but it led to a kind of in joke with us two, that whenever we were waiting for anything, it was always, "Oh
Is that
fuck
where it began?
Birmingham."
Yeah,
Yeah, fuck Birmingham.
Birmingham.
And it was nothing against Birmingham. Just at one point there was a lot of traffic, and it
Yeah,
kind of stuck with us.
bloody spaghetti junction.
Bloody spaghetti junction. Anyway, so we do this army base performance, and we get some filming done, and we we're driving back, and I'm operating the sat nav on my phone. I am driving, and then these blue lights come on. So pull over. Oh great, here we go. And the woman, snooty cow she was. Um, I mean, I was in the wrong, but she was a snooty cow. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that doesn't
She was just fucking taking the
yeah,
piss.
that doesn't take away from that. But anyway, so
Yeah.
I got in the back seat, and
He
she's.
performed.
I did, I did. At the end of the day,
We won't say in what way.
Yeah, I got out of the car, pulled my trousers up. Now, um,
You were crying when you came back. You just said
I
weird
know, I
and
know.
bleeding. I
Yeah,
never ask questions.
both through my eyes, which was weird. Um, but yeah, so I'm in the back seat, and like we were kind of talking about the charge and what I could do to avoid it and whatnot, and I was like, you just say your spiel, because like I could call the leg warehouse. I've got nothing to stand on. This is I was using my phone. You
Yeah.
patently saw me use my phone. There's no excuse. Just get your riot act read. And she was like, "What are you doing down here?" I was like, "Oh, I was performing on the army base." And what do you do? That led to the obvious and whatnot. And yeah, so no fine. No fine. And as I
We were doing a charity.
yeah.
Do you want us to go back and tell the army base that their
But
entertainer's just been fined?
think of it that way. Magic in that scenario was an appeal to the well, it was mentalism in that scenario was an appeal to emotion,
Yeah.
right? How often we see them on TV all the smegging time. How often do you bump into somebody, regardless of the context, who is a magician or a mentalist or something along those lines? Not very. So your emotions are inflamed. Intrigue carries it out, and that situation ended up for me pretty
Diggity
darn
boom.
good. Pretty darn.
It
There
was,
was
although
another
it was,
one.
was awkward afterwards when you reversed back into her car quite violently and then drove off at
Yes.
60.
Ah!
I
Yeah,
hope she never finds us.
yeah. Because afterwards we pulled into the service station, and we thought she'd followed us, and we just ran across this bridge so she couldn't find us. She was nowhere to be seen. She wasn't there. um, But Pascal's confused. Mentalism was the appeal to emotion in that scenario. She was the emotion being intrigue, right?
Mm.
Which might be more of a feeling. The emotions connect to it would be more specific to this person in that particular scenario. But it's simply acknowledging that type of thing exists. You are better equipped to critique, the particulars of its moving parts in that way. Like
Yeah.
you see it all the time on TV with a father character and a young daughter. It's normally in America where the young daughter goes, "Daddy," and the dad knows in that scenario that he's going to be a few $100 lighter as a result of whatever words fall out of her face afterwards, because he's not got the recourse to go, "Nope," because daddy's little girl in that scenario.
Yeah.
So these are the things that we're talking about. If you can learn a little bit more about the process of logical analysis, the process of logical fallacies, the process of logical breakdowns of information, and the way these kind of influential practices are brought into the kind of conversation or exploration of observation information that you see. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I think I should have done this podcast from my ice bath outside. It would have woken me up a bit.
How is the ice bath going? Have you
Oh,
tried your rum barrel?
yes, I was in there.
Yeah.
I was in there the other. Let me. I've pimped it out a little bit as well. Let me see if I can show you.
Pimped it out. Have you
Yeah,
graffitied this Mother Hoka? Oh, very
so
cool.
I've
Nice.
fitted a couple
Well,
of
I like it.
underwater. I say fitted. I bought a couple of underwater lights and dropped them in. Like, so that's it. Like, I was about to try and elevate my DIY status, which is quintessentially piss poor. In that scenario, whenever DIY needs to be completed in this house, it's either I call the man of the house, my wife, or we have we have who we call like our surrogate dad, which is Gary. DIY dad in that scenario, which is Gary.
Call dads. Call the
What?
dads.
No, that's it. When my walking pad broke for my treadmill, I said, Gary, appeal to emotion, right?
Please.
Yeah.
My my
I-
my DIY dad's a little bit different. He just sort of does it without you asking. I needed some gutters cleaning last summer, and I had the
right.
ladder. I just needed someone to hold it at the bottom. I didn't want
Yeah.
my neighbours can watch me, and I
Yeah.
don't want them to see that I've sent my little old dad up to clean my gutters. So I go inside to make us a brew. I come outside, and I
He's
notice I
already
can
up
see
there.
the ladder. I could see the ladder wobbling outside the window, and I was like, "Fucking hell, is he not holding that? That could get an." He's up the top with a brush, fucking going for it. I was like, God's sake.
Having met your dad, like I think him and mine are very similar in the fact that they are tornadoes that will not be contained. Right?
I'd
If they
love to see
wanted,
him on the
oh
pitch.
come on, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Jackass in a
Right?
trolley.
Can you, oh mate, like a fantasy stag do, but your dad's leading the charge, with like an inflatable dick on his head or whatever it is, traffic cone or something like that.
He's that small, it would disappear over him. It'd just be a moving traffic cone.
Oh, it'd be like the toys from Toy Story. That's amazing.
Yeah. Just walking around.
Dad.
Oh my God, a real life sorting hat.
So that's appeal to emotion, right? That's appeal to emotion. Yeah. You could argue that social media is built, the videos and the kind of requirement of subscribing is built on an appeal to emotion, in that if it is that the video itself or the podcast makes you feel something, and then somebody at the end says, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and all that kind of shit, you are more inclined to do it because you have had your emotions played with in that scenario. There's the positive affinity that you connect to the other person. Yeah. So that's appeal to emotion. We've got another one for you, which is ad hominem. Ad hominem. That's exactly where I went in my head as well. So this is, here's a breakdown of it, word for word. Instead of attacking the argument itself, this fallacy attacks the person who presents it. It's like discrediting a scientist's research because they once wore a funny hat and not addressing the science at all.
Ah, right, okay. So basically bring forth their distraction technique. Speak it aloud.
Perfect, mate. It is like, how much can you know about detective work when you're not a policeman? That kind of thing. Oh, thank you. See that? Didn't even ask. Vimto.
Totally Vimto. For reals.
That's it. Pascal would be proud of me. Vin Rouge. But this is what we're talking about in that way. So when you think of it in a Sherlockian sense, Trump techniques as well. Pascal, I'm gonna get into Trump in a minute. Fist first, but well, I'm having a real bad time speaking today. Right, I'm having a real bad time. It's not like my job is predicated on that at all.
I'm just waiting for your head plant the keyboard.
There was a video I saw earlier. I'm side note. We'll come back to ad hominem in a second. But there's a video that cracked me up earlier. And it's a sound effect of like somebody playing with something electrical, and you get the and that's pretty much all it was. And it was captioned when the years of 3 hour sleeping nights and coffee catches up on me, and this woman's messing with putting the laundry away and folding a bed sheets and whatnot, and then you just hear that, and she goes. And that's what it's going to be. That's it. Halfway through this podcast, I'll be like, "Can I talk it?" Down. I won't power down that slow. That's it. I'd be out, mate. I would be out.
I think I'm on the same track, but I think I started powering down at 30 years old. And, obviously coming up to 34 now, I'm still in that power down mode. It's just sort of, next year it'll be.
Have you started making noises when you get out of a chair yet?
Oh, all the time. From my own mouth or my arse, which one do you?
Either, mate. Either way, it's a slip of the tongue. Anyway, so the thing with ad hominem is it can go either way, You know, in
Yeah.
that scenario, there is a distraction method by ruination of the person themselves, so the words aren't listened to, or
Yeah.
accenting qualities about the person themselves, so the words are listened to in that way. You know, and this was going to be the segue into the Trumpisms, because you get a lot of the, well, you know, I'm prime minister or I'm president or I'm king or whatnot, therefore I must be reputable, therefore I must be upstanding. And it's when the countries go, nope, your ad hominem bullshit doesn't work on me. But we've spoken about this before, with the nature of people talking about certain things. You know, you see it a lot in behavioral analysis. Oh, this person must be onto something because they have 14 billion followers. That doesn't mean anything in that way. If somebody's saying something stupid, they're saying something stupid,
Yeah.
right? And the flip side is too, in that is true in that scenario. Like, the one I've seen a lot is uh, uh, like, personally, people trying to discredit the things that I'm talking about because of the way that I look. Like, if it was that I sat here with a suit on, clean shaven and whatnot, both on my face and on my head, and no tattoos, no jewelry of any kind, then it presents an image that is less. Sorry, that is more of a challenge to be attacked than this one of me wearing, you know, my top that I love, or, you know, being covered in tattoos and whatnot. It is, how much of a credibility can this person bring because they look like X, Y, and Z in that
Yeah.
scenario. In the same way that when the ad hominem reaches a kind of middle ground where it should be questioned, and personal trainers face this a lot, in that personal trainers are believed to be, you know, the kind of beacons of physical fitness, in that way. But
Yeah.
if they had that much time to work on themselves, then they're clearly not taking that many clients, right?
Yeah.
But you remember the place that we used to work, and when DA started doing was it the Cambridge stuff?
Yeah. Was it the sachets and what have you in the
Yeah,
meal plans?
yeah.
They then
And he
tried to
was and he
sell us.
was and he was talking about, you know, health benefits this, and I'm losing loads of weight that, and we were all, yeah, but you've had a gastric
You had a
band.
band. Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah. Did we get that with it?
Is
Is,
that part
is,
of the
is the
process?
Cambridge Start is the Cambridge Start like a side order?
Yeah, and this is what we're saying in that way. If you are aware that an ad hominem distraction method for logical fallacies exist,
Hmm.
then you are better equipped to put aside, you know, the esteem of talking to somebody who's in the upper echelons of society, and just listen to what they're saying, or, you know, somebody who is lower class but they're saying something smart, you know, just to focus on what is being described in that scenario. It is like getting lost in visual bias in that way.
Yeah.
Is getting like, if I was to give you an analogy of sorts, can you imagine? I mean, I'm sure somebody like this must exist, right? But can you imagine, like, the typical sort of Instagram girl who only focuses on squatting, has an OnlyFans, you know, this kind of stereotype that I'm trying to, you know, that would kind of twizzle their
How
hair and
how did you know about my OnlyFans?
chew on
I
chewing
thought
gum,
might
because
do that.
I'm your only subscriber. That's why. Um,
You just pay so well.
but this person then uses all of those platforms to talk about things that are the other end of the scale, right? She uses her
Yeah.
OnlyFans to talk about her latest research in some kind of scientific document, or, you know, I'm trying to think polar opposites of some kind of spectrum that exists, right? So if you see somebody who's in a research lab, you don't immediately think, bet she's got an OnlyFans. Or if you saw a stripper, you don't immediately think, bet she's got a PhD. See what I did there? See what I did?
Yeah.
In that kind of scenario. But this is what we're talking about, the ad hominem
Yeah.
properties. There you go.
I forgot.
Pascal's going to subscribe to your OnlyFans.
Do it. Do it now. This isn't a joke. Do it now.
But this is what I'm saying.
I will send you limited pictures, limited edition. Sign them. Don't you worry.
Limited pictures.
Limit. Say your limp dick pictures.
Limp dick pictures. That's something else, mate. That's something else. We're sidetracking. I'm going to bring it back. If you are at least aware then that these kind of ad hominem properties exist, then you stop looking at the kind of aesthetic veneer of somebody else, and you can focus better on thoughts, words, actions, you know, that what they are actually doing rather than what they are in that particular moment, right? In that example that I got from this book online, where is it? Discrediting a scientist's research because they once wore a funny hat, right? It's probably gone on somewhere. It's probably gone on somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
We are more inclined, therefore, to listen to the scientist's research and acknowledge that his hat is stupid. But if we are aware of the ad hominem properties in this scenario, we are better equipped to focus on the legitimacy of whatever it is that's being discussed at that moment. And Trumpington, you know, the
Trumpington,
the melty-faced orange sack of dicks that he is,
the disqualified Teletubby.
And I'm gonna back up that as well by saying I actually have a good point on Trump's refusal to adhere to logical fallacies in this particular. There is a good point that I would like to make about this, but Trump is infamous.
You will get section quicker.
If section meant no, that was going to be far too graphic.
In how many pieces?
No. That was. I'll tell you after. I'll tell you after.
Oh God.
But like, if you look at even something like Trump's nicknames for people, Sleepy Joe, Crooked Hillary, and all of these kinds of things, because all of his fans, therefore, are seeing the appeal to emotion connection of somebody they love, the ad hominem as such that these other people are immediately discredited as a result. Oh, here we go. I have heard of a few high-end call girls hosts that played their way through universities that way. Yes, it absolutely does. Awesome. That's a great example in that way. Nice. It's a great example of the ad hominem practices at work in people using these kind of easily accessible routes to money in order to facilitate them doing other things, being other things, going to other places. You know, that's a great example of that way. Let me scroll through and find the good one for Trumpington.
Timothy Trumpington.
Timothy Trumpington. There it is. It's called a false dilemma fallacy. A false dilemma fallacy, presenting only two options as if they're the only ones, forcing a false choice. You know, when you see it in stories of a Sherlockian nature, this type of practice, to the best of my knowledge, hasn't appeared in the Sherlock Holmes canon, but of detective fiction in general. You know, you're either with us or against us.
Yeah.
There's so much more grey area in the middle. So much more grey area in the middle that exists in that scenario. And like I've spoken about parents using this kind of fallacy before. Like, if you want your children to brush their teeth, for example, you say, "Are you going to brush your teeth after you've finished your show, or are you doing it now?"
That's a good one, though.
It's a great one.
I'm going to do it now. Watch the show.
It's a great one. It's a great one in that scenario. But in presenting those two options, it depends on how you present it, because the you're either with us or you're against us. A false, what was it? A false conclusion, a false dilemma fallacy is such that it's very confrontational, and it's very Milgram-esque in that scenario, that it requires the other person to submit to the strength of that kind of ultimatum. Right?
Yeah.
You're either buying me one drink or you're buying me two. I'm not buying you any. Sod off. Right? It's not happening. Right? It was like you get it a lot in door work. The kind of insults, right? either I'm going to take you outside and knock you out, or I'm going to do it here. Then you would go,
okay, let's get Google Maps out. Let's sort the location.
and that's the thing. When you as the doorman, your job is to maintain a professional control of that scenario. If you enter into that whole kind of world that this false dilemma is being presented, violence is on the cards. Then you've accepted that. Cool. We're gonna duke it out at that particular scenario. But most of the time, if you are just
don't want no part of it.
The person then in that scenario has resided themselves to two choices and ignored themselves a middle ground. So if I, in this particular scenario, stay where I am, they now have presented a false dilemma of either listening to me or being removed and acquiescing to that kind of false dilemma. And the good one that I wanted to mention of Senior Trumpington, who needs to hire a better makeup artist. Have you seen no?
He's a Jim Henson production, isn't he? Donald Trump.
If it were held too close to an open flame.
Company are amazing. Lucasfilm have done a fantastic job making him.
I always remember Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway? I nearly said from Mock the Week. I was like, nope, he's not from Mock the Week. Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway? On one of their shows, when Drew Carey was presenting, he was like, "Do you want to see my impression of Donald Trump?"
Genius.
It was great. But anyway, just to prove that I can say something nice about him. There was an interview. I don't know the context for the interview, where it was or who was interviewing. It was a lady was interviewing him for whatever reason, and they're talking. She's talking to him about the war in. Oh, sorry, I was reading TS's comment. I'll get to that in a sec. She was talking about the war in Ukraine. And she was like, will you go out and say that the war is bad? What Russia is doing is wrong. And then he says, like, if I became president, I'd have this war sorted in 24 hours. I just want it all to stop from both sides and whatnot. And she's like, no, will you like commit to what Russia is doing is wrong? And he goes, like, I just want people to stop dying. And she's trying to force a polar opposite reaction of taking one side or the other, and Al D-Bag saying, it's not about that. People are dying on both sides. I want that to stop.
Very fair of him.
Exactly.
Very anti-Trump of him.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's put all the other heinous bullshit to one side for a second. And just that particular bit. It was a great example of knowing that there are more choices to this apparent false dilemma conclusion, and in knowing that, you are therefore better equipped to examine it. It is like, you see it a lot in legal cases and legal precedents. I'm sure it's probably happened on TV as well somewhere, where the line of questioning from whoever's cross-examining who at that particular stage goes out, and the witness goes, well, it's not as simple as that, and the cross-exam, well, it's a simple yes or no question. Well, no, it's not. There are details in that scenario. They're forcing the false dilemma to try and put the witness in a box to present an opinion, right?
Yeah.
And the system forces them to answer yes or no in that particular scenario. If they stick to their guns of, well, there is more nuance to this question, there is a possibility that they'll end up in contempt of court of some way because they're not willing to adhere to the practice of the show of court that's in that scenario. What was that line from Law Abiding Citizen? It's not what you know, it's what you can prove in court. It's
very true, though.
True. Let's have a listen.
Yeah.
Hang on. Outside, lead the way. Then you have the chance to bolt as you slam the door behind you. Boom. Yeah, dead right.
Yeah.
Dead right in that scenario, and that's all we're really doing in this. Now, there are one or two in here that come back to the concept of circular reasoning, and whereas circular reasoning is a popular logical fallacy to make yourself aware of, we're not going into that because that directly then connects to appeals to emotion, because the circular reasoning is one that gets argued over in the trans debate. Right? Yeah. And this ain't about that. This is about learning about logical fallacies and how to navigate the discussions around them. So in order to mitigate that whole firestorm from every side, we ain't going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We ain't going to talk about it. Anyway.
We shut that shit down.
So the next one is a bandwagon fallacy. This fallacy assumes this fallacy assumes something must be true or good because many people believe in it. Think of following trends just because everyone else is, or buying a product solely because it's popular, not necessarily based on its merits.
Ah.
So you think about it.
You're just following the mainstream, as it were.
Yeah. How else do salespeople around the world get their toys sold?
Yeah.
They appeal to the bandwagon fallacy in children. And like, if you think about it from a Sherlockian perspective, all of the obscure things that he reads about and experiments with, and the questions he gets about the abnormal practices in that way. This is how you detect and solve crime, and why are you doing all of this, Sherlock? And that's he's lauded as some kind of nutter in that particular way until it's time for him to be used in that scenario. And so the bandwagon fallacy is something that we can use to understand people's capacity for, and it sounds like quite an arrogant term. I don't mean it in an arrogant way. People's capacity for free thinking in that way. It is like, if you said to somebody, what was a recently hated film that's come out? Aquaman. Maddie's just given that from the side. My brain just immediately went, I've got nothing. No films exist. I'm playing nothing. Nothing happened. Aquaman, right? Recently hated.
Yeah.
In that scenario, when you look at its contrasting kind of publications compared to the Marvels bombed, worst thing in history for, oh my god, it's so awful. Rotten Tomatoes have eaten the Rotten Tomatoes and thrown up all over the Marvels and all this kind of thing that popped out. Whereas
it's growing new tomatoes.
Whereas Aquaman, as I understand it, when they did the same run at the cinema, there you go, at the cinema,
in the sim world, in the cinema.
When they did the same run at the cinema, Aquaman was way behind the Marvels in terms of money.
Yeah,
they've made a lot of money since it's gone global afterwards, and I lost the figures on the back of it. But the bandwagon fallacy is such that adding fuel to the fire of people hating Marvel products, but that particular Marvel product, but because nobody was really publicizing the Aquaman franchise anyway in that situation, nobody could get on board. Right? Yeah. Why is that? Because they tried. I'm about to say this like it's certain. I don't know if it's certain. Just 100% my opinion on it. That's all.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to back away from AH.
Yeah, that's very true.
Right. Go on.
I was going to say kind of like I always felt like the Amber Heard situation and that drama overshadowed the film itself, and it became more that it wasn't necessarily about what's going to be in this film and what's going to do, what's the plot going to be, are they going to have such and such return? And it wasn't that. It was is Amber Heard
Is
going to
she
be
going
in
to
it
be
for
in
more
it?
than 5 minutes? Yeah, is she
Yeah.
going to die in it? Well, a secondary character, and she's almost in a way the unpopular star of it.
Exactly.
Just a whole load of massive distraction.
So, and this is what we're talking about in terms of the bandwagon practices. If you think like, who wins in a fight? Nobody wins in a fight. Somebody might walk away, but like nobody wins in a fight.
Mm,
And yet,
yeah, the
this
fight
is a
has happened.
exactly, this is a practice I'm about to cite from British schools. I imagine it's fairly similar around the world, but I know it's popular in the UK. In that, when a fight kicks off, you got the fight, 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 and crowds gathering round to see something that nobody wants to see.
Yeah,
Right?
it's mad, isn't it? Yeah,
And if you just to stop them and go, okay, why are you watching when your face is doing this? Why are you not
yeah,
helping if you don't want your
yeah,
friend to get a punch in the face? In that sort of like it's a connection to the bystander effect in that scenario, but this is a fallacy of thinking that happens in here. I'm going to go and see what's happening because everyone else is doing it. It must be good.
yeah,
It must be interesting. It must be bad. Whatever it is, you know.
yeah. I think it's like a Saltburn.
Oh God.
The it's full of controversy after that
Mm,
came out as well. It's an artsy film as well. It's not necessarily going to hit everybody's radar. Yet
no.
everyone has now seen it
Mm,
because of certain scenes in it, and it's like people have gone out of their way now to watch it
mm,
to see those scenes,
mm.
and then they come back and talk about it like, oh yeah, it's fucking disgusting. Yeah, but you
Yeah,
went out to choose to watch it, to come back and say that you didn't like watching it. It's mad, isn't it? It's just like, well,
exactly.
if you knew you weren't gonna like that, and you'd heard about it, and
Mm.
then you went to watch it to see it, you can't be blamed that you saw it.
Like,
you can't you can't argue that.
does the Saw franchise work if it is less graphic?
Absolutely not. It's graphic with a plot. The
Exactly,
plot is graphic. Yeah,
exactly. And like, if you think about kind of the nature of the lone detective, the lone genius that's capable of doing anything, whether you're looking at
yeah,
Sherlock Holmes, Psych, The Mentalist, Poirot, anyone in that scenario, when
yeah,
they have these kind of series of run of the mill human moments. Like the reason a lot of people fell off, a lot of Sherlockians fell off from enjoying Elementary, is because at times it became the Joan Watson show, right? And
uh,
you
yeah,
stop looking at it for what you appreciate of detective fiction, and
mm,
you start looking at it as a Sherlock show, and you lose the significance of the Watson character at that particular stage and what they're doing and why they're doing it, and you can't really appreciate it because this bandwagon connection towards Sherlockian purity is exists, and I've fully
yeah,
recanted my opinion on Elementary. Like when I first watched the season, I was like, nah, it's just shit. It's a good Sherlock stuck in a shit show, and whereas I still
yeah,
stand by the kind of tweaking of storyline points unnecessarily, destroying of stock
yeah.
characters unnecessarily, the whole thing as a result has grown on me. Has grown on me. But
Okay, yeah,
that's a side note. This is different examples of
yeah.
bandwagoning in that way, right? Um,
I suppose that's
what,
good. That's a good example of seeing what happens if you don't do that. There's benefits to it, isn't there? You may not have discovered it was to your liking had you just left it uh, where you left it when you had that opinion. Instead, you sort of carried on with it and formed a better opinion of it, I suppose, haven't you? You've got more
exactly.
from it now.
To that end, is you've got a Samsung phone, haven't you? Is your Samsung the newest one?
No, God no.
What? Why?
This should have died with the dinosaurs. That's how new it is.
Exactly. But like, if you were to try and say why, it might come back to, well, money or whatnot. But so if money isn't a problem, right, in this
Yeah,
hypothetical world, would you have the newest Samsung?
probably not.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but we know then. This is what I'm saying earlier in terms of capacity for free thought. The nature of new shiny tech. It's now got a 673 megapixel camera with 4 lenses, and it will butter your toast for you. Like that type of thing doesn't matter to you,
yeah,
right? Which shows how
yeah,
you choose to spend your disposable income, which shows what you're interested in, which shows. This
yeah,
bandwagon and this bandwagon fallacy is illuminating when you know it exists, because you're better equipped to separate where people choose to push their disposable interest, their disposable money, their disposable time, in
yeah,
that kind of way, disposable time and money for the Saltburn reference in this particular scenario, right? There are those,
yeah,
but like if you were to look at tattoos, I personally think all of my tattoos are fucking awesome, but I am biased and whatnot. But Maddie knows that most of my tattoos are quality. There's one or two that she doesn't particularly like in terms of quality, not in terms of the design, in that way.
yeah,
But I push a lot of my disposable towards that because I'm kind of invested in it. Whereas my
yeah.
entire ensemble that I'm wearing, right? If you discount the AirPods, my entire ensemble costs 15 quid.
Yeah,
Right, they just
yeah,
that's where my interest. I don't need the newest
yeah,
clothes, t-shirts, and this kind of thing. All of that
yeah, yeah,
bandwagon fallacy from advertising clothes in that scenario has never appealed to me. I
yeah.
I take a
I'm the
very
same with
reacher
that.
approach. Go on.
Designer stuff is I've never truly understood
Mm,
designer stuff because you don't see the label on clothes.
mm,
If you just got something that was similar,
mm.
uh, I would assume the effect has been achieved. The label is something you have,
Yeah,
but you're wearing it to let people know that you might have it.
yeah,
It's never made sense. It must mean
yeah.
much more in someone's head to someone knowing that they have it rather than it be to other people. Yet it's worn for other people than it
Yeah.
is more for you. It's a
Precisely.
weird one, isn't it? Yeah.
Precisely. And this is like the kind of conclusion of the whole premise. Yes, we've gone through three, but
Mhm.
there are hundreds you can look at, and there's research and books and all of this kind of thing. If you want to come and train with me, we'll go over the whole practice as well. But what we're saying with this is that really, when it comes to your capacity to be influenced, knowledge is power. In that way, knowledge
Yeah.
is power. Like if you put anything Sherlock, Deadpool, or Cookie, as in my cookie related, onto anything, I will buy it, love it, treasure it forever,
Yeah.
forever. In that way. But like if you put, I don't know, who's a well loved fictional character, if you put uh, Harry Potter on it, I couldn't care less. It doesn't mean anything to me in that scenario. That knowledge is power when it comes to examining the way that people adhere to logical fallacies or don't. The more equipped you are to how you adhere to logical fallacies or you don't. Neuroscience dictates that we can't completely turn off our biases, so you will be at risk of some of these having influence over your life. It is just what you do with those particular practices in that particular scenario. So the more you know,
Yeah.
the more equipped you are to mitigate their effects on you or the people around you, or the more equipped you are to have insight into the effects that these kind of things are having on the people around you as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
closing thoughts, dude. What do you want? What's the parting
I think
opinion thought, feeling, noise that you
I
want to leave
think
people with?
that if we do end up going to war, we should be called the fallacies. If we have to arm together to create some sort of core SWAT group, that's I think that's what we're going for there. Because
Yeah.
I just want to, if you could use your distraction technique so I can run away. Basically, we'll use the same method if we get caught by the enemy as we did leaving Devon when you got taken by the copper, and I can make it a grand run. I've got the
It's
plan. I've got the 3-point plan down. We're good to go. I think we'll be okay. I'm going to set
so.
up a board outside now and get the BB gun out and do some practicing. I shot a squirrel.
I shot a neighbour. Oh no!
Oh
But
God.
it's that line from Pirates of the Caribbean. We shall engage in that most noblest of pirate traditions. We shall fight to run away.
If we end up in the middle of
Cool.
a whirlpool.
Oh, can you imagine? Maelstrom. So
Oh my
yeah, with
God.
that in mind, guys, we're gonna love you and leave you mostly,
Thanks,
so
people.
I can go and
You
not
collapse.
have to talk anymore because it's not working. It's just not working anymore.
Oh, mate. Get to bed. Get to bed.
Bye.
Andy.